I've always had fond memories of the underwater fights in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. Don't click on the video yet. I know you had your hand on the clicker right there. On the mouse. Trying to click on out of here. Hear me out first, alright? Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate was my first Monster Hunter game. Now, I didn't excuse anything. I understand that underwater combat is one of the most hated mechanics in Monster Hunter. But I liked it. And you're probably thinking why? Myself included. Monster Hunter Rise's release brought back two maps from Monster Hunter 3, those being the Flooded Forest and the Sandy Plains. Now, playing these maps in Rise got me really nostalgic of the past. In particular, the Flooded Forest. It used to be a lot more flooded back in 3. I mean, it is still wet, just not as wet. That being said, the map reminded me of all the fun I used to have with underwater combat. I want to explore why I have such fond memories of the underwater combat. You know, could it be the level design, the presentation, the combat itself? Or is it all just nostalgia and there's nothing great about it at all? I'll be playing Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate to pinpoint the reason why I enjoyed underwater combat so much and see if it still holds up to me today. Let's dive on in, shall we? Before we move on to the rest of the video, more than exactly 100% of my viewers are not subscribed to my channel. So if you do like the video, please consider subscribing. And of course, like the video. Right off the bat, I knew I wanted to try different weapons to see how they compare underwater. But I didn't have any gunner gear, so I just bought some random armor and threw it together. I thought that it wasn't worth grinding for a specific set for this video. I'll save that for a potential playthrough of the game. There are two maps with water areas, not including the special maps. Those being the Deserted Island and the Flooded Forest. It didn't take me too long to get used to the controls for underwater sections. In fact, it controls pretty well, which is of course a plus when you're hunting large monsters. One thing that I really enjoyed playing this game years back is how big the underwater sections made the locale feel. And yeah, it still gives me that kind of feel today. Outside of swimming areas, hunters can only move on the ground. They can't fly or jump around like in Rise, which makes exploring fairly limited. Swimming allows players to move up and down the Z-axis and give them more room to explore otherwise unreachable areas. Aside from that, seeing monsters big or small behave underwater is something you can't necessarily see in any other Monster Hunter game. Seeing unique creatures like fish or shark behave in their natural habitat in Monster Hunter is truly a sight to behold. In all seriousness though, I find it nice to swim along with aquatic creatures. I don't know about you guys, but seeing a large monster appear underwater sends a chill down my spine. It's similar to the feeling of seeing a shark close up underwater, or a big spooky sea creature in games like Subnautica. Listen, the first time I saw Lagiacrus underwater, I packed my shit, said GG's, and ran off in my poopy diapers. Shit's real. Aside from the Elder Dragons, there are only 4 monsters you can fight underwater, those being Lagiacrus, the Royal Ludroth, Gabul, and Plesioth. You can fight their variants underwater as well. Fighting large monsters underwater means that you're in their realm. They're faster and stronger. In a way, the water is kind of like an upgrade to all sea monsters. Similar to how Zinogre has access to more moves in its powered up state, sea monsters have access to more attacks and movement behaviors that are harder to avoid underwater. But let's be real though, nobody needs a harder version of Plesioth and his algae green cousin. I really enjoy game mechanics that interrupt the player's typical game plan and challenge them to adapt to a new one through new mechanics. It's features like these that keep a game fresh and interesting. It's up to the players to adapt to the water environment and, despite the odds, defeat the monster, which is so rewarding, especially after having beat them in their prime. So, some weapons do better than others underwater. Faster weapons are definitely a lot easier to use, and perhaps even more fun, like dual blades, light bowgun, and longsword. Slower weapons like the greatsword and switch axe are certainly more challenging. You already move at a reduced speed in the water, which makes using them a lot harder. The faster weapons allow you to move around more freely and avoid damage better. Back when I first played MH3, I was a dual blades main, and I dabbled with a few others every now and then. I'm sure playing the dual blades contributed to the fun experience I had with underwater combat. More often than not though, fights will transition from land and water, which keeps things different and interesting. So you're never stuck in one situation. Aside from feeling a bit slower underwater, Combat feels pretty much the same to me. In terms of weapons, I do prefer some over others, but I still enjoy myself. The underwater combat isn't perfect by any means, and there are a couple of things that I would want to see changed if it ever occurred in the future again. Although it didn't bother me at all throughout playing, I would just have the oxygen meter removed completely. And before anybody goes telling me, that would make sense, people gotta breathe, hunters gotta breathe too. To you I say this. Hunters be jumping around like gravity ain't got no consequences, and they be doing it for fun. But they close their eyes before they jump, so it's like it never happened.
Nope.
What I'm saying is it doesn't have to make sense. It's a Monster Hunter game. I'd also keep the movement speed equal, and if not, faster than the movement speed that hunters have on land. Give them some flippers or something. While I was playing, I kept thinking how cool it would be to have the Adept Dodge underwater. Editor Nanel here. While I was talking the Adept Dodge, I forgot to mention that I was talking about the Hunter Arts as a whole, so I think it would be cool to have the Hunter Arts as a whole used in underwater combat, and I used the Adept Dodge as an example. Okay, awesome. Back to you, Video Nel. You're doing great. They could certainly turn the tides. See what I did there? A new buddy specific to underwater sections would be nice as well. Perhaps something like a dolphin. They would act just like the Palamute would underwater. I think it would be really cool to see some other monsters that appeared after 3 to be fought underwater. Mizutsume, for example, would be pretty neat. Perhaps instead its bubbles would be something you wouldn't want to avoid. Rather, something that would buff the hunter, like improved speed. Or Zamtrios, who would look even more terrifying underwater. He could probably do the same suck move as Gabi. Lastly, if underwater is a no-go in general, I think it would be nice to keep it for specific monsters like Cedius. Kinda like the siege battles, this fight would change the way hunters would approach their target. I find this battle really fascinating, and it's a shame it can't make a return in future games. You travel along with Cedius through this sunken civilization. I say travel with him, but you're literally just trying to smack the shit out of him while he's minding his own business. Look at him. He doesn't even care. He doesn't even care that you're doing that. Damn. The scenery leading up to the final location is so beautiful, even breathtaking. And once you reach that final area, you're surrounded by even more fascinating visuals, and the epic music starts to play. Once it does, you get fired up to finally defeat it. Though, increased movement speed would be nice for this part, as it does kinda take a bit to catch up to him. Monster Hunter is always experimenting with new ideas and mechanics, and revolving their new titles around that new mechanic. Underwater combat was going to appear eventually in the series, and I think it pushed Capcom in the right direction for future games. Although it wasn't that well received by fans, I think it was a well worth experimentation. And for those that did enjoy it, it was an awesome experience to be had. It definitely still holds up to the memories I had playing it a long time ago. And if you're a Monster Hunter fan and you haven't tried Monster Hunter 3 yet, I wouldn't let the underwater section shy you away. It's an experience that you can't find in any other Monster Hunter game. And I think, based on that, it's worth giving it a try. Thank you to everyone that made it to the end of this video. This is something that I've been thinking of doing for a while now, but I never really got around to it. Let me know your opinions on the underwater combat down in the comments below. I'd love to know your opinions and perhaps discuss more on it with you guys. And if you like this one, why not check some of my other videos right here with these two hands. Right here. Y'all motherfuckers can't swim. That's what it is. That's what it is. I found y'all out. Don't worry. Don't worry. I found out already. Y'all motherfuckers can't swim.